Good morning and welcome to the Ask Weldon Show, episode 211. Welcome back. It's been a 10-day break since the last show, and I'm back in Finland. So we just finished a intensive boot camp at the TSM house, as well as an intensive 2 or 3 days of travel, flying and busing and Ubering my way back to my house in Finland. Here I am. I've slept now for an entire almost 24 hours, and I'm recovered and ready to start streaming again. So, kicked it off this morning. We're going to go back to our normal schedule, 6:30 p.m. Los Angeles time, with the show starting at 7 p.m. A little bit early today. We're going to kick it off at 6:30 p.m., and I'm going to try to go maybe end the stream early and go build some IKEA furniture, because I got my bookshelves, and I want to populate this area behind you so that it's interesting. Maybe rearrange my office a little bit, get the stream quality upgraded with the backdrop thing changed around. So those are my updates. The TSM bootcamp went well. We just kind of did the normal thing. It was really fun because I've worked with all these people before, so we got to do an advanced bootcamp. We got to go into the next level of information, and I got to work with the coaches, mostly on coach training, which was super fun, super fascinating. Parth, Song, and Lustboy were all there and contributing. They have a translator, Heaven Time, Simon, who was an ex-pro player as well. So really good staff in the house. Really enjoyed working with them. Most professional coaches I have worked with ever in esport, aside from myself. So that's it. Why don't we jump into the show, guys? Okay, today's questions, we have 3 questions, and they're dealing with mindset, sports psychology. So you can call into the show using Anchor, anchor.fm/Weldon Green. You have to download a little app on your phone, click message, then you talk into the phone, and it sends me the audio message, which I have in, when I go into my Anchor here on the web browser, and I can play it for this show. The reason we use that is because it makes your voice sound amazing. Like they do some sort of filtering or something that makes you sound like you're not talking into a cell phone microphone. It's pretty cool. And you can call in questions about esports psychology, sports psychology, mindset, performance, relationship psychology, pretty much anything related to do with non-clinical life improvement. So meaning not abnormal psychology necessarily related to depression, ADD, these kind of things. I can't actually counsel or do therapy, but I can handle everything from normal to awesome. And that is what sports psychology is. It's the application of psychological principles to try to optimize performance and make you kind of go from average to great. And that's what the show is all about. People call in their questions, and I have a master's in sports science, in sport and exercise psychology. I try to answer them from that framework, and the rest of them from the framework and context as a coach, as an athlete, or as somebody who's been, since people are now calling it with relationship advice, somebody who's been in a relationship for 13 years or so, and has a couple kids, 4 to be exact, one of which is 6 weeks old now, 6 or 7 at this point, gosh, and he's already looking around and staring at things, which is exciting. Okay, today's questions from Yasha, Ryan, and Austin are about how it is, whether or not my team is holding me back, how to deal with like somebody at work who's doing favors for you, and how to force yourself to not fear failure, or at least to do it anyway while fearing failure. Let's jump into the first question. Okay. Well, that was anticlimactic.
Hey Weldon, is playing in a team environment beneficial for someone that is more casually involved in League of Legends but wants to climb the solo queue ladder, or does it even hinder the person to climb further because his teammates are literally holding him back when he's playing with the same people every single game?
All right, this is really relevant with the Clash coming out hopefully next weekend, but I would say yes and no. And let me explain how you will be able to tell if they're holding you back or not. The answer is yes, they're holding you back if you want to climb and if you need to grind it out, and if you're spending time trying to teach them or lead them in any way instead of grinding it out. Generally speaking, the things that you're practicing, like leading your team, trying to teach them strategy, trying to play together to win, trying to climb the team ladder, those skills are pretty much useless if you just want to climb. You need to get to the top of the ladder based on your leadership of solo queue players, not necessarily teammates. And you need to get to the top of the ladder based on your skill set in the game. Then, once you join a pro team or once you join a team there, you're going to learn different skills, and you're going to teach different skills to the players, and you're going to have a different team dynamic. So I would say in that context, it's a waste of time, but it's not a waste of time in a lot of other different contexts. So let's say context of developing friendships. You should absolutely continue to play with your casual team if you are doing so for a purpose other than to climb the ladder, right? If you're doing so to invest in them socially, to invest and sacrifice for their lives, then it's totally worth the temporary inefficiency in your ladder climb. Also, if you're not necessarily the best person on the team, then you can soak up and get a little bit of osmosis from people who might be better at the game with you, which will accelerate your learning. And the third context is if you don't know how to improve, like if you're not actually improving in your ladder climb. So let's say you're just climbing the ladder and you're improving constantly, and then playing with a team distracts you or detracts time from your ability to keep climbing, because it's like kind of like lowering the quality bar of people that you play with because of the mix of ELOs instead of the optimization of just playing as an individual, which should place you with a bunch of people exactly at your level. But if you are stuck, if you're playing the solo queue ladder and you're not going anywhere, you're not moving, then playing on a team can actually kind of give you a reflective period, or give you the ability to teach and think about what it is, the skills that you're missing, and think about what it is that you need to do to get to the next level, and kind of uncover some of your systems of thinking. And you do that when you teach. This is one of the reasons that people talk about the one-room schoolhouse that we used to have in the United States before we had more industrialized schooling, where we separated people by grade. The idea being that in the one-room schoolhouse, you had kids of a higher level teaching kids of a lower level, and it actually helped them understand their subject more. So you should think about it. If you are stuck and you cannot improve, one of the things you can do is get a coach. The other thing you can do is work with and coach other people, and that is what you're doing on a team. You are getting advice from other people, and you're trying to teach other people things. And I think that you can reflect on your own gameplay better. So that's another context where playing with a team will actually help you. So now you know the answer. The answer is yay or nay, depending on how good you are by yourself. All right, let's jump into question number 2 from Ryan.
Random topic, something happening in her life. Hey Weldon, I was looking for some work relation advice. My store manager at my current job has been kind of playing favorites and doing little things like buying me lunches and giving my dogs things that she doesn't give to other dogs. Just kind of welcoming the newbie. I don't think it's anything other than that, but I feel the need to reciprocate such things. She often stops to talk to me. Well, stops me from going out to work to talk to me. And I feel like I need to listen and just have this gossip conversation. Like, it's normally just nothing. It's not normally gossip, it's not normally negative, but it's normally some random topic, something happening in her life. Like, she's just kind of talking it out, which I do think is necessary. So, do I just accept this and have the necessary conversation from time to time and stop burning myself out?
All right. So generally speaking, if we're talking about the favors like buying lunch, buying things for the dog, etc., my policy when they are equivalent among peers is you're looking for a time to pay it back when you can sacrifice in terms of in terms of knowledge, right? So you get to know the person, and you don't just like if one of your friends gives you a cake, you just don't go out and buy a cake and give it back to them, right? What you do is you find out, when something special is going to happen to them, and you get them something that's thoughtful at the appropriate time. Okay, but that's my perspective when it's among peers. When it's among a hierarchy from the top downward, it can be very there's a dangerous power dynamic here where people who have are giving to people who have not, and that's more drastic when you get to like things like manager to employee kind of things. So the policy that you should adopt mentally for these kinds of situation is a pay it forward situation. Whenever somebody in a work hierarchy is doing a lot of favors for you, kind of like as a welcoming thing or a way to make you feel at ease downward, what you should do is you should reflect on that, and you should be grateful for it, and you should think about ways that you can pay that forward to people down the hierarchy that will then bring relaxation or an ease into their life, or do something for them that makes them feel welcome in that way. Or you might have to wait a while in time until you're in that position, and then you do the same kind of thing, right? So that's the mentality you should take toward the kind of like monetary favors that would cost you money and resources to kind of give back. Now, as far as the work-related thing, that's something that you have to tease out for yourself. If somebody who is in a power hierarchy with you wants you to spend time listening to them instead of working, then there's a little bit of, this is kind of like a workplace dynamic thing where you have to decide if you're missing a ton of work like this, or if you're getting flack from other people for missing work because this conversation of people are thinking of you in a bad way. And if so, then you actually, probably the only solution is to confront the person and be like, let's talk about this more later. I feel like I need to get some work done. And, or find different ways of getting out of the conversation so you can go work, or to just accept it. And if it doesn't have any negative consequences in terms of peer relationships at your level, and it doesn't have any negative consequences in terms of you missing a ton of work because maybe there's not a lot of work to do necessarily, then it's kind of like a greasing the wheel thing where you have certain things and habits that you will do to build relationships with your workplace employees or workplace partners, and the other people have different things. And if you're a new employee, then they probably want to get to know you and try to understand what makes you tick. So when you're doing active listening in these situations, try to reply with philosophy. Try to reply with, oh yeah, what I think about these kind of situations is this. Oh yeah, what I think about these kind of situations is this. You're so right, or I never saw it that way. These kind of things. Because they might be trying to just like understand you and what makes you tick, so that they can put you in the context of their other employees. And once they do, then it'll return to like a jovial kind of more as needed conversation. I think that's about all I have to say on that. Can't think of any other interesting ideas to share. I have tons of crazy stories about work relationships, but those are for the stream. Come to twitch.tv/mindgamesweldon after the show, and I'll share you them there. If you want to hear about my time as a dockhand in northern Minnesota, as an accused narc stealing boats and running away across the lake. Okay, anyway, question number 3.
Hey Weldon, I'm an AD carry, and I know that to improve certain skills like putting out damage in team fights and managing CS in the mid-game, I'm going to have to put myself at risk of failing and making a decision that costs me the game. However, because I'm sensitive and I don't want to get flame, I'd rather default to something like improving last hits and just waiting around for the next big fight. How do I put my feet to the fire on this one and really improve the skills that I know will get me the most bang for my buck?
All right. I love this question because what you need to do to push your limits is take these risks. So the real question is, how do I make myself do it in a particular game? Let me ask you something. If you were playing a single-player game and you had a save moment and you had no audience, would you be able to make the attempt? And the answer is I'll answer it for you too. How about that? You get both sides with this show. What a deal. The answer is yes. You would try to make the jump, and then you would fall to your death, and you hit reload, quick save. You'd hit reload, and you try it again, and you'd practice the skill until you got it. So the barriers that are standing in front of you are the fact that the consequences of your action are so much higher, right? There's no quick save, and you have an audience watching you who are your teammates, who not only are they a faceless audience, but also they actually have a face in terms of their emotional content and their messaging to you and your feeling of letting them down, et cetera, et cetera. So what you are trying to do is not a very trivial thing. It's actually a very, very difficult thing. So I would, first of all, approach it with that mindset that this is a very difficult feat to pull off. And I would try to lower the difficulty level of the feat by doing things like muting your teammates so that they can't flame you if you fail, and thinking of what you're doing as more of a single player game, pretending that you are doing this kind of for your own benefit, and that you aren't necessarily impacting other humans as much. And one of the ways that I do this is, for example, I don't differentiate between normal and ranked games. I just only play ranked games ever. I never queue up for anything else except ARAM. And that way, when I'm so desensitized to ranked games that I'm more able to take risks there without feeling like I'm impacting other players, because I'm playing enough games that it kind of gets desensitized, right? And then the other thing you need to do is the save state thing, where you don't have another chance to redo it. And the way that I would handle that is to actually increase the pressure on yourself, to look at yourself in the case, hey, here is a moment of learning. Take a few deep breaths and try to get really focused, and then do it with your heart beating and your hands shaking, and you'll actually pick up more and learn more in that situation. Think of it this way. I like to tell the analogy of language learning. Imagine that somebody gives you 20 Spanish words on a sheet, like a teacher says, take these home, memorize them, and you take them home and you study them for 40 minutes, and you have to remember them, and you go back and you try to remember, these 20 words that you were just kind of studying on the sheet. You might remember them or you might not, and a couple of years later, you probably won't remember them at all, unless you speak Spanish by then. But if you are asked to pronounce a sentence in front of the class, and you go up and you say it and you mispronounce a word, and the entire class falls out of their chairs laughing at you because you said something so silly and you forgot what it was, that moment will be etched and burned in your memory for a long time. You probably will never forget that Spanish word that you just learned. Let's call it learning, okay? Even though it was kind of embarrassed into your head. Because that's what's happening with your neurons. They are learning how not to do that again because they don't want to ever be in that situation again. So when you're in this very high pressure situation, your hands are shaking, your heart's beating, you're breathing, and you're trying to get that mental calmness, and then you engage in the risk and you try to do it. That is when your brain is most wired to learn, with all these chemicals running through it, the dopamine and the serotonin and the adrenaline. And you're going to learn the skill much better in that one attempt than you would through, 10 of the attempts if you had a single player game with a quick save function that you could just reload. So the precipice of consequences coming after your failure, where the rest of the game is hard, is the thing that you accept as the cost of making that moment important. So face the importance of the moment square on and say, okay, this is the reason that I'm afraid of it, is because it is actually important, and that pressure is going to help me learn it, because then I have to deal with the consequences of the failure of it, which my brain lives through, and therefore, when I am trying to do stuff here, it will really matter. So don't shy away from it in terms of the actual importance, or don't try to lower the importance of it, right? What you should do is you should lower the human-on-human factors, the audience and the judgment factors that are inhibiting you, but you should keep the importance factors, the ones that are actually kind of raising the importance of the moment. You shouldn't try to reduce those too much. You should just go for it, but with full knowledge of, how much it really matters, and how much it will really matter that you, and how much that, because you think it really matters, you will learn more powerfully from it and therefore improve. Even if you mess it up, by the way. The whole point is not to do it and succeed and then be like, hey, I learned it. You do it and you fail, and then you actually improve at the skill. All right. That's the show for you today. Thanks for checking it out. Make sure you guys check out the Mac program. Here's the link, mindgames.gg/MAC. It is my mindfulness acceptance commitment training program. And it's an online video training course that I use to support everything that I do at the Mind Games brand. And we're trying to develop it into an app right now. But right now it's just 47 online videos, which you can buy for $25 if you use the code AskWeldon. And you get permanent, lifetime, forever, grandfathered into every single future version access of all time. Because right now, that is the way that I've been selling it for the last few years. And once we launch the app, it's going to change to a subscription model. So a little bit of fear of missing out there for you. Because if you get in now under the wire, you'll have it forever, even as it improves. But you'll also get to be part of the beta once we actually launch the app, which I think is the exciting part. And yeah, a lot of good feedback from that program. So let me know what you think of it once you get it. And if you need any assistance with it, like you're from some place where they don't have the same kind of economics that we have in Europe and in North America, then hit me up on Twitter, and I'll see what I can do to get you a copy of the program so that you can improve your life and improve your game. Thanks, guys. See you tomorrow.